The mailman doesn't deliver on a Sunday.
If you don't like that, you don't like NBA basketball.
Anthony for three. Bang! J.R. Smith! We just saw men fly. LeBron James with no regard for human life.
Cleveland! This is for you!
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Coast to Coast. Happy holidays to everyone. We are back with our last episode before Christmas and probably before the new year. Obviously, we are both traveling and doing different things around the Christmas time, but fun episode today. Just before we get into it, once again, thank you all so much for listening. Thank you for making Coast to Coast your first listen for NBA coverage. Remember, you like what you're hearing, you want to subscribe. If you're on YouTube, you want to leave a comment, let us know what you guys think. You're on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, leave that 5-star review. You do that, we'll keep producing that content. On today's episode, we will be doing the second half of our rookie report card. We'll also be talking about the All-Star game. Voting began on Thursday, and we'll be getting into a little bit on that, maybe nominating first-timers and maybe seeing some guys that might return to the game this year. We'll also be talking a bit on Draymond after his length of suspension was announced, a little bit about Morant after his return. And I know a few other things that I know Chris isn't going to want to talk about. But before we get into it, Chris, how you doing, man?
I'm good. I'm still really. You tried to give me a trigger warning before we started recording. Like, there's gonna be something I don't like talking about. This is the third time now. You're just like putting suspense on. So I was good. Now I'm a little stressed. I'm not sure. Do we just bring it up now?
Let's go straight out the bat. On Inside the NBA, this was brought up by Shaquille O'Neal.
Oh.
Is it time that we put Steph Curry into the GOAT conversation? What do you think? Is Steph Curry in that conversation for the greatest of all time?
Yeah, my favorite conversation ever, the GOAT. The greatest of all conversation. You know what? Let's have fun with this. I do like throwing Steph in the conversation, because it's a subjective conversation. It's about what you like as a basketball fan. Do you like the fact that LeBron James is a complete player and makes his teammates better? You love how he sees the floor, how he passes, just like how freakishly large but fast he is. Do you love like Michael Jordan, all that? Or are you maybe from a newer generation and you grew up with Steph Curry and you grew up with a guy who could break a defense down without even getting the paint, who could shoot from anywhere, from every angle? This guy's a magician. This guy is probably, here's the funny thing though. Let's just cut all this conversation out. He's not even going to be in the top 5 in MVP voting this year.
Yeah.
And so is it time right now to put him in the GOAT conversation? No, but it is fun to look at, like, you put me in this little like box of like, is he the GOAT? I can't do that, but if you let me nuance it a little bit, I think he's one of the most special, different players of all time. Like, no one has been able to change the game that he has before. He changed the game, point blank period, right? And I think everybody knows that. Does that make him the GOAT? Like, how does that make him the GOAT? Because he's still, in my mind, still behind LeBron, still behind Jordan, obviously. And who are you putting him ahead of? Who are you taking out of the top 10? Who are you taking out of the top 5? If you're talking about GOAT conversation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's where it comes to. Like, and even before even getting into that side of it, like, put it out there, like, he's in the one debate that he is at top of is probably the least debatable thing in the world, the greatest shooter of all time. Like, he is that, and I don't think anyone would disagree with that. I don't think anyone else would put anyone above him ever. That just won't happen. He is the greatest shooter of all time. Simples. But when it comes to the greatest of all time, even though Steph Curry is a great player, as much as I'm meant to hate him as a LeBron lover, I'm programmed to hate what Steph Curry has done to my baby boy LeBron. But he is a great player. And what he does on the basketball court, like, he's magic. But when you really break it down and you just look at him as an individual, he just doesn't match up with the other guys. Like, look at, like, across the board, like, finals MVPs, NBA first teams as an individual. Steph Curry's got 1 finals MVP, 2 MVPs, and 4 All NBA first teams. Then you look at like MJ, he's got 6, 5, and 10. LeBron 4, 4, and 13. Kareem 2, 6, and 11, I think it was. And then Bill Russell, then you look at him and he's like 11-time champion, 5-time MVP. They didn't have the All NBA first team the whole time. He's only on it 3 times, but though he's just that tier below. There's that top tier where the guys that I think you look at the top tier, you're looking like MJ, LeBron, Kareem, Russell for me. Then you have the likes of like a Bird, Magic, Shaq, Tim Duncan that kind of teeter between each one. And then you have the likes of Kobe, Steph, and Wilt. They come in that little tier below, I think, of the truly great ones. But that's not taking away anything from Steph Curry. What he does on the court is magical. The way he's changed the game. Like, if we're talking like Mount Rushmore, and like you bring in more impact that they've had on the game, then I think you put Steph Curry in that. If like we're talking NBA Mount Rushmore, I'd have Steph Curry on my Mount Rushmore. But in terms of the greatest of all time, I just think he's a tier below that conversation.
Is he? I feel like, and this is just like, and all this is like subjective, right? It is, but I feel like I put him in the same range of like of Kobe and Tim Duncan and what they meant to the game. And obviously like Steph surpasses that just because like he didn't himself just revolutionize the game. Like the game was probably going to go there eventually, but he was the catalyst for that. So I guess that gives him an edge there. But the GOAT conversation, it's funny because anytime anyone does it, and this is why I hate it, Ronan. This is why I hate it. It's because we're puppets, man. We're just part of this little wave that got pushed out because the TNT writers knew if they put that up there, that'll get the conversation going and really talk. And it is a cool conversation. I think it's cool to look back and just think about it. It is cool to at least nuance things and think about how different players have changed the game in different ways and where people stand in history. And just the fact that he stands amongst those guys in history is crazy. But what's crazier is I think we got more of those guys in our league right now. Like we're in such a golden age of the NBA right now that, like I said, he's not probably going to be in the top 5 in MVP voting, I don't think, this season. And how many guys from our league right now who are young are going to be in this conversation too at the end of their careers if things go healthy? And I'll end that on a good note. I wasn't too triggered by that. That's a fine.
Yeah, for sure. You're all right because we were talking about Steph, so it was okay. But yeah, well, let's just put it like this: greatest shooter of all time, yes. Huge impact on the game, yes. Greatest of all time, no. But let's move on then. A few other things that have gone down. Let's talk about Ja Morant. I mean, let's just go ahead and straight up say it. Like it's the least he could do after getting a needless suspension. But at the same time, like that thing had to be scripted. I mean, he relatively struggled in the first half. The Grizzlies are down by 19. Then he scores 27 points in the second half, has 5 assists, and scores the game winner. Tell me that's not scripted, but it was unbelievable.
He looked. I mean, the second half he looked amazing. He looked unstoppable, and Pelicans defense, interestingly, just did not load up on him, especially on the game-winning shot. Like they played man. They didn't send help early. They didn't create the wall. And Ja Morant is one of those guys who you need to create a wall. And it's gonna take, maybe he just needs to remind the league, hey, I think he did remind the league right there. I'm that guy. I'm that guy. He is that guy, dude. Like you can't, when the game is on the line, you can't afford to not double team him if he gets his foot past the foul strip. You can't afford not to game plan for him to get to the rim because you can't one-on-one guard that guy. And he showed it. And man, it's awesome to see him back. And I have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
How many wins will the Grizzlies get with Ja Morant back in the lineup? Over under on, let's say, 29.
I think just under. I think they'll be around that mark. I think they could. It depends on how quickly other guys that are injured get back. I think that's going to have a big impact. Like you could definitely say that so far this year, if Ja Morant had been playing at the start of the year, Grizzlies would have probably 5 or 6 more wins at least. I think you could definitely equate that number to the impact that he has. But over the course of the season, like they're still so injury plagued. Like obviously they're not going to get Steven Adams or Brandon Clark back anytime soon. But like getting Marcus Smart back in there, just getting Ja really into the flow of it. they're going to be in a spot where they could get to the play-in, but it's going to depend on the other teams kind of dropping off that little bit. They're going to have to be really strong, I think, when they're playing obviously teams in the Western Conference. They're the games that could become crucial, because I think it's going to be tight for them to really make a push to get into the play-in at this stage.
Yeah. I if you look at their schedule, they've got a couple friendly games coming up. I mean, if they can get the ball rolling with Ja, like it's such a toss up. And they're kind of like the Heat for me, where this has been the first time where they've looked like mortal in the past 2.5, 3 years, where, when Ja went down before, it's like they're winning, what was it, like 70% of their games? Never could have imagined that. And then you just stop doubting them. But I don't want to doubt what they could do with him on the floor, because they've been practicing with him. He's been with the team. And I think this is huge. What we need to think about too right now is not the fact that it's just Ja. Like, he's going to take pressure off of Bane. He's going to take pressure off of Jaren Jackson Jr. What's that going to do for them? I imagine that's going to do big things for them.
Yeah, that's a big thing. And you mentioned the Miami Heat there, and obviously the Grizzlies just let go of your boy, Kenny Lofton Jr. Would it be your dream if the Miami Heat were to pick him up and turned him into the guy you believed he could be?
You know why that's the funniest thing ever? Is because, like, he would be like, if you just like know his game and like how he's just very strange type of player, like the way he can just get downhill, like a playmaking big. But then you look at his body, bro. How is he going to meet the Miami Heat body fat percentage? Like, dude, if Kenny Lofton Jr. goes to the Miami Heat and he meets their requirements, he will be like an all NBA player like next year if he goes to the Miami Heat. I've penciled it in right now. If Kenny Lofton Jr. gets picked up by the Miami Heat, that's a future all-star right there. He just comes back next year jacked, but in the gym with Jimmy all off season long.
Nice, yeah. So if you were to make the call now, then would you say Ja Morant back, the Grizzlies will be in the play-in, or is it too early?
Yes. If Ja Morant is playing, I can't believe that they won't be in the play-in. I can't. Like, we could sit here and talk about, their record moving forward, strength of schedule, all that. I don't care. If Ja Morant is playing for the Memphis Grizzlies, and I mean, obviously, if Bane gets hurt or Jaren, God forbid any of that happens, and they keep getting the guys back, I think they'll be in the play-in.
Cool. Feel that. All right. How about one more quick bit? Draymond's going to miss at least 3 weeks. Guess of those 3 weeks, that'll be 10 games missed. So I think the last game would be January 2nd. So he would have missed 10 games in that span. The Warriors obviously were able to take care of the Celtics thanks to some Steph Curry magic. How important do you think it is for the Warriors to have him back at the very latest at that stage?
I think it's more important that he misses more games than that. As I said, I think it's very important for them to develop some chemistry with him off the floor and figure out what they have. A 10-game stretch may not be enough. That might not be enough. And granted, pretty much half the season will have been like lost for him. And it's more important right now just to evaluate. Be on the cusp of it, evaluate. What do you got from these other guys? Free up minutes. We know what it'll be. We know what the Warriors will be with Draymond there. But I mean, how many years do you have left with Steph, do you think? 3? 4? He's not slowed down at all. Like, would you rather just try and like patch things back together and hope it works in the playoffs, or maybe you see the light of some of your younger talent and build through that, which has been covered up by, forcing minutes to Clay, forcing minutes to Wiggins, forcing minutes to Draymond. Let's see what everybody else has. 15 games, 20 games.
Yeah, I like that thought. That's cool coming from you. Obviously, I know you've always been a big proponent of how important Draymond is, but I like.
Yeah. I agree.
I know, like I know you're not saying he's not important, but I think what you're saying is definitely correct. And obviously, the Splash Bros of late have been really kind of back in form. Clay kind of looking more like his old self, which is important for the team as well. Wiggins still struggling that a little bit, but the young guys are having an impact. And obviously the Warriors still in a bit of a lull, but you always think that they're still the freaking Warriors, so they're probably going to go on some sort of ridiculous run behind Steph and Clay. But one last thing I will mention before we get into our major bits is that the Portland Trailblazers are really starting to show why everyone said they're going to be a fun team this year. Because they're in close games. They beat the Suns last game. Like, they're in close games. They're fun to watch. We're seeing great moments from Anthony Simons, still from Jeremy Grant, the odd bit from Scoot and Shaden Sharp as well. And they're like, I know everyone says kind of like a bullshit call. They're just going to suck when you call them fun. But the Blazers are showing why we all said they're going to be a fun team.
Yeah, I mean, you have Scoot. Scoot is a fantastic playmaker. Like that's a guy that once he gets downhill, fun things are gonna happen. Shaden Sharp, fun things happen when he goes downhill. Anthony Simons has, I mean, he learned a thing or two from Dame, like his shot creation from the perimeter. And then, I mean, Jeremy Grant, great player. Tamani Kamara, great defender. Like, you know, there are guys on this team, and their maturity away, their team building away from putting things together. But they're fun to watch because I think Chauncey Billups has developed something here, and they're growing. I mean, I liken this to the flashes that we started to see from the Pelicans a couple years ago, and I think if they keep on this, they'll go from being fun to very soon next year maybe being something that we actually consider as a threat.
Yeah, that's fair. Let's talk All-Stars. Voting began last Thursday. Where we go this week? We talk about our returner, or we put forward our guy that we think is deserving of a first timer this year.
Let me give a big asterisk, because when we first talked about doing this, I spent a long time thinking in my head, like, who actually deserves to be like a first All-Star, or like to return to the All-Star, because that's what we're doing here. This is a fun exercise because I think everyone has their favorite player, and it, you know, as a fan of the Bulls, you know, I always think about getting my guys in there. I was so excited when Zach LaVine made his first All-Star game. That meant the world to me as a big Zach LaVine fan. And there's cases to be made for everyone out there. But this year, man, it's especially tough. Like, all NBA teams are going to be tough, let alone All-Star voting. So, to be clear, we are picking first-time guys, not because we actually think that they absolutely need to be in the All-Star game, but because they have a case to be made. And I think, just to lay the land, it's cool. We should have conversations like this because it helps us understand like where they are and like the come up that is happening. I think a couple of guys we talk about, they're not there right now. They're not going to get voted in. Plus, there's so many politics involved with getting an All-Star vote, but they're well on their way, and they're close. So I want to start with the new guys. New guys is fun to me.
Okay, and do you want to put forward your new pick?
Yes, I want you to guess who I'm going to say for the Eastern Conference.
Tyrese Maxey?
No.
Well, are you going to take my pick then? Are you going to take Jalen Brunson?
No.
Okay, well then you got to hit me.
Third, Scotty Barnes.
Okay, yes.
I'm going to nominate Scotty Barnes for his first All-Star appearance. Nominate again. If you're getting mad at me saying this, think back to 10 seconds ago. But I really have just fallen in love with how much he's developed this year as a playmaker. We've talked about it. Now he's at 5.8 assists. He's assisting on nearly a quarter of his teammates' shots. And we're putting this in the context of a Raptors team who does not have perimeter shooters, who does not have an effective half-court offense at all, one of the worst half-court offenses in the league. And Scotty is the de facto point guard at times. And what he's continued to do, playmaking from the perimeter, playmaking from the post, and the ball movement that he's had since a rookie. We've seen that vision. That's been amazing. But the question, that's never been the question, you know. I think we saw the flash and it's like, will this grow? Yeah, it's grown. Well, the question was shooting. He's shooting 38% on all threes. He's shooting 42% on catch and shoot threes. Like, this dude was getting Ben Simmons treatment last season. At the end of last season, just being completely left alone. Huge problem from the offensive end. And he's fixed that. And he's still a work in progress on the pull-up. But the confidence that he's showing with his shots and the way that he's getting into his spots, like, it's such great development, and it's development towards what I think right now is an all-star player. I mean, this guy on defense, like, we were just talking about playmaking, shooting, like everything that you need on offense, he is your go-to guy. He is the guy. And then on defense, I mean, he's 90th percentile block rate, 85th percentile in steal rate, His rebounding is elite. Like he does it all on both sides of the court, and he does it on a team that isn't really doing him a lot of favors for the playmaking side of it or anything like that. So big ups to Scotty Barnes for becoming who I think a lot of us thought he would be, and for that reason, send him to the All-Star game.
Yeah, that's nice. That's a very interesting pick. I think yours is definitely one that he should be in a position that he should be getting plenty of votes and should be close to it, but I just think he's going to miss out. But I definitely, in terms of a player who's grown into himself and really shown himself to be at that All-Star level this year, I think he's definitely a very good pick. Obviously, I already revealed mine. Jalen Brunson is my guy. He's got, I think, especially when voting has started and what he's done in the last few games, like obviously huge game against the Suns, then another big game against the Lakers. He's in a mode at the moment where he's really playing some of his best basketball, and I think it's coming out of right time as the voting is starting to begin. Brunson's been awesome again this year, showing again and again that this is his team. It's not Julius Randle's. Averaging 26, 4 and 6, shooting 46% from deep. Jalen Brunson has been unbelievable since he's come to New York. He's really taken that step that we obviously weren't sure that he had in him after playing those few years with Luka and impressing. But he's done it, and he's taken a step up from what he did last year and looking even better this year. So I think Jalen Brunson's gotta be in the conversation. We're talking first-time All-Stars.
Yeah, I mean, he's the answer, you know. He's the answer. And it's funny that you don't really think, if you ask me to think of like first-time All-Star, like that's not the first name that comes to mind, because it feels like Jalen Brunson kind of skipped a step. Like once he was with Luka, he went from being a rotation guy to then being a starter, then being like, whoa, this guy's a star. And then he's on the Knicks and like, oh, this guy's a star. And he's an older player, so you don't even think about the fact that, you know, he's never been recognized as an All-Star. He's never been to an All-Star game before. But dude, the way he's playing, the way he's just elevated, somehow still like getting better. But yeah, Jalen Brunson, like I wouldn't have thought of him as the first person in terms of a first-time All-Star, because he's really skipped these steps. He's already like a borderline superstar. Like the way that he steps onto the court and can immediately turn the game, like just by himself. We just seen it in the past couple of weeks, but he's definitely the answer given how just dominant he's been. And I mean, he's gonna be the reason why the Knicks are, if they have a chance to make it deep in the playoffs this season. Easy first time All-Star, and kind of unexpected given like how much we just kind of view him as like, oh, that's Jalen Brunson now. Like there is almost like no arrival besides how he played in the playoffs and how he's been last season. But now it's just like this is who he is. So he needs to be in the All-Star game. That's probably the right answer. Scotty Barnes got next, but had to give big ups to a younger guy, and Jalen Brunson. I think he'll be it.
Yeah, I think that's fair. You got a guy for the Western Conference, or we go for a returning player?
No, I got a new one for the Western Conference. And it came down to two for me. And I want to know like your gut response once I say these two names. And this will kind of be interesting for me. So Chet or Wemby?
Ooh, I gotta probably have to say Wemby, don't I?
And what, like, for you, why? Like, what's your like your why?
It's almost like a respect sort of thing. The hype he's come in with, everything, the buzz around him, everything like that.
Exactly.
He has to. Like, it's just that sort of respect sort of thing he picked.
So does that make it the wrong answer?
No.
No, it is the All-Star game. And then that's kind of what it was for me, because like if you just compare their games, like it's tough to choose, because like what they bring on the defensive end, what they bring, you know, in different ways on the offensive end, like both of them are just like unbelievably gifted and immediately impactful players for their teams. But one of them is doing it on a winning team.
Yeah.
And this is kind of the interesting thing about like all-star votes and stuff like that, is part of it is like rewarding teams almost for being good, because if you're good, that means you have good players, and you got to reward that, not just those players, but that team. So OKC, do they deserve to have two All-Stars? That's another question. Yes or no?
Yes, but not this year.
Yes, but not this year. They're the second best in the West, right? And they've been
in case like the
top five.
Timberwolves aren't going to have to. Timberwolves won't have to.
You're already getting ahead of me now. Maybe. But the reason we choose Wemby is because of the fan vote. We choose him because everyone wants to see him there, and he's a freak show. Like he would do insane things, and I don't know. It feels like the wrong move for me. I feel like I would want to reward Chet, who's been an amazing player in his own right, and it feels like that would be ignoring the type of success that the OKC Thunder have had, and what Chet has done for that team. He like, this is my thing. Think back to last year. The Thunder are this exciting young team coming up, and we're like, hey, they're gonna make the playoffs. And do that. They surpassed all expectations, right? And they're like, oh, what are they gonna do next season? Like they should be making trades. They should think about like making a big move. They should do all these stuff. And they didn't. And we had to think, we're like, well, why? And we're like, maybe it's Chet. Maybe they know that Chet is the guy and he's gonna complete them. And he came in and dude, look at them now. They are gonna be a force because of Chet. And that's obvious. So do we reward that? And I think the answer for me is yes.
Yeah, I like it. I'd like to see Chet there. I mean, you know me, I'm a big Chet guy. I mean, if you want to you want to have Chet there over Wemby, I have no problem with that. I just feel like that's not the way that it's gonna go. I feel like Chet maybe won't get the recognition. I think Wemby's that more of an individual. So I think in terms of where we're actually being realistic about the voting, I think it's more likely that Wemby gets there. But if we're wanting to give respect to a rookie who's having a massive impact on a winning team right off the bat, then it got to be Chet.
Depends what you want to see. You want to see 40% spot up threes and good weak side help, or do you want to see Wemby take one step in the free throw line and dunk it over three people? I guess.
Yeah.
Depends what you're into, man.
Yeah, it's whatever you're into. That just like we were talking about the GOAT conversation, whatever you're feeling, you know.
Yeah, that I thought those two guys would be particularly interesting to think about because they're not unrealistic. Because Wemby, the fan vote, Chet, I think people will give the Thunder a big nod, like, hey, you guys are great. Chet's awesome. Why not? Who's the last rookie to be named an NBA All-Star? Since you love pop quizzing me all the time.
That's true. Oh God. That's rookie to be named an All-Star.
Since you gave me 2 minutes to name like 10 people, what's the math on that? Like I'm gonna give you like 6 seconds here.
I have no idea.
Western Conference.
Damian Lillard.
It was the same All-Star event where he jumped over a car.
So Aaron Gordon, Aaron Gordon jumped over the car, no?
No.
No, Blake.
No, yes, Blake Griffin.
Blake Griffin, okay.
Blake Griffin. And for that, Yao Ming 2003. So 2011 was the last time Blake. Yao 2003. Last guy before that was a Spur. It was Tim Duncan, 1998.
Well, they're like it's Wemby's getting all the comparisons to Tim Duncan. He might as well go and match him and get a
quarter
get
century
named an
later.
All-Star.
Yeah. What do you got?
For sure. I didn't have anyone for the West in terms of a newcomer, but I'll jump over. Outside of obviously, I was obviously thinking about Wemby and Chet, but outside of that, I didn't really have one. But so I'll jump over to my returner, and this is a pretty obvious pick, but I think he's doing things that I don't think was completely expected coming into this year. So I say Kawhi Leonard.
Oh, that's the obvious one that I missed. Yep.
The obvious one there. I think he's really looking like the Kawhi Leonard of old, and he's played every game this year, which is so huge. And not just playing, he's thriving and really being the lead guy on this Clippers team. They've won 8 straight games. He's been absolutely dominant. He's shooting well from 3. He's looking good on both ends of the floor, and the return of him has been a huge part of what this Clippers team have done outside of the trade for James Harden and the different moves that they've made. Kawhi is back playing like the Kawhi that the Clippers went and got back in 2019.
Yeah, that's the right answer. That's probably the right answer. I can't believe I missed that. Yeah, the fact is that Kawhi has not been to an All-Star game in forever. It feels like just because of the injuries and everything, but dude has been on a tear. I mean, he where does he stand in MVP? But this is a crazy thing. Like, how many guys have like legitimate cases for MVP votes, and this dude's played every game. This man is locking down everybody. He looks like himself again. His shooting percentages are back up. Like, he looks like Kawhi Leonard. And that's just pretty simple. Like, if Kawhi Leonard looks like Kawhi Leonard, like, oh, that was the guy who was second to LeBron 5 years ago. Like, where do you rank him amongst everybody? Like the rankings, all the journalists out there who have to do rankings and stuff like that for their job and make good arguments on that in good faith. Like this is a tough season to do it. Really tough season to do it. But no, that's the correct answer, I'd say. I kind of half revealed mine before. Do you remember back when there were GM surveys and they picked Karl Anthony Towns as the guy to build around? Not Anthony Davis, not fill in the blank. It was Karl Anthony Towns. Those were some golden years, right? Averaging 26 points per game and saying he's the greatest shooter of all time, greatest big shooter of all time. And things have kind of just like, in terms of his stardom, faded. Just deficiencies in the regular season on defense, getting exposed in the playoffs, and that's just really taken away from what we see him today. But I think I was a big hater, and I don't know if I've apologized yet. Have I?
No.
Have we had a formal apology?
No.
Really? Okay. All right, if we did, I'll do it again because like I am sorry, Karl Anthony Towns. Like Timberwolves are like top 5 team in the league this year. We've already talked about their defense, and he's a part of that. He's a part of that. Like he's not dragging that defense down. Like he's doing a lot of things he's being asked to do, and the shooting's back. I mean, this dude is back offensively. Like after a terrible, this is even counting just the terrible first couple of weeks where it's like, oh, here we go, another bad season. He's now averaging 22 points per game, 9.5 rebounds, 3 assists, and he's shooting on 55, 42.4, and 90 splits after what had to have been the worst couple weeks of basketball he's ever played in his life. That considered into those numbers. And his elevated play is that's one of the reasons the Wolves are the best team in the West. And like I was saying before, like those teams, especially the ones that are on the come up, like you kind of think, hey, do they deserve 2 All-Stars? Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe it's Cat. Maybe he deserves a return. Who knows? But I'm gonna tip my cap to Cat and say, hey, bring him back to the All-Star game.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think we were both kind of ragging on him, especially to start this year, but Ant kind of gone in and out of the team a little bit with a few injuries, and Towns has really stepped up. He's been a huge part of this Timberwolves success. He's looking more like a plus defender. He's been the top scorer for them in a lot of games. He's kind of been the consistent part of them outside of Rudy Gobert. He's been that consistent guy on both ends of the floor. It's a reason why they're a top defense. It's a reason why they've won as many games as they've had. And I think it would be justified if Cat and if both Cat and Ant were named as All-Stars. Justification for the T-Wolves after so much questions about them last year.
Oh yeah,
they're doing to start this year, and just Cat as an individual, the turnaround that he's had after his difficult starts. Props to him, like you said. So yeah, I think I went with the obvious pick. I think you maybe you went with the right pick.
Well, thank you for that. I appreciate that. But probably Kawhi. Probably Kawhi, the guy that might get thrown some MVP votes. But this is the fun thing about the fun and the bad thing about All-Star voting is what we're gonna end up doing, and what I promise we'll try not to do in this podcast is compare guys and then tear other guys down just to see, okay, we got to get this guy in. What's wrong with those players? Like, there's so many players, and I feel like we need an expansion. I feel like we need to expand the rosters. I don't know. Is there any way to get more guys in there? Because there's so many legitimately deserving players of an All-Star nod. What does it even mean for an All-Star to be an All-Star anymore? Big questions. No answers here, but maybe next year.
Yeah, maybe that's too big of a question to answer at this stage. But yeah, it's definitely interesting. It's going to be interesting to see what guys get in. There's always a couple of surprise picks. They're probably going to have a few injuries, and we're going to have to get some reserve guys in as well. So a couple of extra guys might be able to get nods on that side of it. But it's going to be interesting to see who the first timers end up being, who the returners end up being. It's definitely going to be a year where guys could get votes based off the success their teams had, not just individual success. I think this is definitely a year where things like that happen. Like you think of like Franz Wagner and Banchero over with the Magic and different guys like that. It's definitely going to be, there's going to be a lot of votes spread out. I know obviously you can vote for forever on these All-Stars, so it's going to be interesting. I'd say the number of players that could get votes this year could be a record high.
Yeah, and I have a great question. Who's going to be the Andrew Wiggins of this year's vote? Who is someone that's going to get voted in that people are going to get pissed off about?
Ooh, that's a very interesting question. I don't know. Would would like a
Like if
James would like a
LaMelo
J would
Ball,
like James Harden get that? Would that be like
oh
something
my
like
God,
that?
yeah. I mean, a lot of it had to do with overseas voting, right? This league is an international league, and Andrew Wiggins apparently had big K-pop fan base. But LaMelo Ball, I mean, he's like one of the most popular players of this
Yeah.
generation among kids. Like he easily could be one of those guys who just like randomly gets voted in. Um, I think that would be a funny one if he made it. Like he's having a great year, but someone who just doesn't that would not make sense.
And like I don't even know when he's going to be back before the All-Star break. Like obviously he was on an absolute tear, an unbelievable tear that he was on. If he was still healthy and still on that tear, yeah, he's 100% an All-Star. But he's going to be out for an extended period. He's still going to be out for another few weeks, as far as I'm aware. So yeah, like how often is he actually on the floor? That's the big thing there.
Yeah. So
So
do we talk about rookies?
yes, we do.
Let's
I think it's
do
time
it.
to complete our rookie report card. I'll let you take the reins here. Let's go.
Um, and oh, I'm sorry. I need to do this though. We this has been on my brain before we leave All Star. The Magic. Do the Magic deserve an All Star? We talked about teams deserving All Stars. Magic had this big turnaround. Everyone loves talking about the Magic. Are you going to give them an All Star?
I'd probably say no because no one is doing anything overly exceptional or anything like that. But I think for the success they've had, they deserve one. I would say that.
I think Paulo might sneak in like on the coaches, but
Mhm.
he could. But I digress. We will move on to our rookies. Last week we had the great opportunity to talk about Brandon Miller, Asar, Chet, Jaquez, and Wemby. This year we're going to talk about a few guys who we maybe did not have the chance to talk about their teams. One of which Bilal. I don't know who's talking about the Wizards. And if it's good things, but this is a great thing. We get to talk about a guy like him. Talk about Jordan Hawkins real quick, Keontae George, quick shout out Kamara, Derek Lively. Let's get into it. I want to talk first about Bilal. Bilal Coulibaly, Wemby's teammate. The guy was like a big question mark. Like he started raising up in the draft boards early on. Kind of had to figure out who he was, and just like this super lanky, long, like some people said, mini Giannis looking kid who played incredible defense, questionable jump shot, could handle the ball, and just wasn't sure who he was. Like looking at him right now in the NBA and like what he's doing, facing NBA offenses, like the flashes we're seeing from him defensively, that's like the biggest thing I've seen from like talking about a grade is tough for a player who plays for the Washington Wizards, but all things considered, uh, like this dude could really we could be sleeping on a guy who has tremendous two-way potential. What say you?
In terms of a grade, I'd probably go maybe like a B minus because obviously he hadn't really popped yet. But what he's delivering in the limited opportunities that he's getting is huge. Obviously, he's averaging 9.4 points per game. He's averaging a steal a game, I think, as well, shooting 52% from the field, 42% from three. He's coming off the bench for the most part. Like he's taking a lot less shots than some of the guys above him in terms of scoring, like Jaquez, like Wemby, like Chet. Like he's taking a lot less shots than those guys are. He's delivering where he can, and the flashes that he's getting, it makes me kind of want to be like, come on, Wizards, can you just like trade off of Kuzma or Poole and kind of just get this young guy a few more opportunities? That like he's definitely shown enough to for me to definitely be wanting that to happen in Washington.
Yeah, yeah, it's he's one guy who like you're like, okay, that's someone you can build around. Really, I think so. I mean, you look at him, dude's like tiny. He's 195 pounds, and so that makes when you look at him, he's like, oh, he's 6'7". You can't even tell because he's like that small. And the 7'2" wingspan, but that comes out, dude. His hands are everywhere. I just need to like talk about his defense because that's just the most amazing thing about me for a rookie to be flashing like that. His instincts on defense is fantastic.
Mhm.
And they can use him in so many different ways, and it's really hard to tell because Washington sucks at defense, but he's a one bright spot. I mean, he has great feel for being a health defender and recovering. He has great, quick, snappy hips on ball defense, and like he still takes a lot of risks. So he's plays like a rookie for sure. He's not the sound guy that Asar Thompson is, but at his position, I mean, he's a guy that can defend 1 through 4. Like once he gets an NBA body, and like how you can't name a lot of guys like that. So just looking at the potential, like what he's flashed, like he's a guy that can play like serious, like he's gonna be an anchor type of defender in this league. And then offensively, that was a big question mark. He really can get downhill, man. Like he doesn't have a flashy handle, but he's got a good enough handle, and he's got the quickness in the first step to be an amazing cutter. Where he can just get to the rim, and once he gets there, he's got some good footwork getting to the basket and scoring. Like he's shown enough of a framework where if the Wizards did do it, you're saying like, all right, look, this is a guy that we want to build around. I think that's very valid. Like he's a guy that you could see that with. So B- with the I'm gonna give him a B just because of that part. He's shown enough where it's not like, oh, hey, this is gonna be a good rotation player. This is a good role player. He's shown enough where I'm like, dude, if this guy gets an NBA body, how good is that guy? Especially now that you know that he can catch and shoot. Like he still needs to fix that jumper. He's not gonna really do it off the bounce just yet. He hasn't shown that he has that kind of skill. But what he's able to do right now, like that's it. That's very good for the Wizards to have at least one shining potential star after I don't know what we've seen from their picks the last few years. Not much.
A whole lot of nothing. So yeah, Wizards, come on, let's see some more Bilal. We need more Bilal. I think even your fan base would want more Bilal.
Who you want to go to next?
Dereck Lively.
Yeah.
Guy I've really liked watching. Had a massive impact on this Dallas team. You can notice the games when he isn't playing. You notice the difference when he's not on the floor. He had that unbelievable performance when they went toe-to-toe with Chet when he had that 2016 7-block game playing against Chet. He's looking like a guy that they've been wanting to get for like last 5-6 years since they got Luka. Obviously, he's still a ways to go in terms of really being that consistent rim protector, rim runner, but from what we've seen so far and what was expected, he's having a massive impact. He's definitely getting a B grade from me. Could be higher, but the things that he's done and the fact that he's slotted in as a starter with this team so early is huge.
Yeah, and you said it, impact. If you look at his counting numbers, it's like, oh, whatever. But you got if you watch him on the floor, it's absolutely correct. And if you look at the impact metrics, the Mavs are 10.8 points better with him on the floor than without. That is a rookie, ladies and gentlemen. That is a rookie center, first of all. And that was my first question, like how long is it going to take for him to fit into this? And I know it's going to be a huge help to have guys like Kyrie and Doncic really be able to set things up for him offensively, but defensively. And on the defensive end, teams are scoring 7.4 points per 100 possessions less than they normally do with him on the floor than without. That is 91st percentile. And those are numbers of a good starting center. And that's from your rookie. So it's amazing that they were able to really scout this guy and know that he was going to have this impact, because I think a lot of people had questions about his performance last season at Duke. He really didn't show out the way that they thought he would. And man, he's been solid in the drop. That's something that a lot of bigs struggle with. Figuring out how to play in the drop as a young center is something that takes centers a couple of years, takes some time, and he's figured it out solidly. In terms of rim protection, and he's right outside of the top 10 in block percentage. So I really believe that he's going to be a long time running mate of Doncic. I think they found their guy, and I think for that, you call me generous, I'm giving him an A.
Yeah,
because he's done exactly what they want him to do immediately, pretty much. And easy score for him, because like you're comparing him to other guys where there's a lot more expectations, but he's really done exactly what they asked him to do and some.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. I think I'd be willing to bump up my grade there. I think, but yeah, I mean, Lively obviously maybe it's obviously benefited the Mavericks, his performance with Duke last year. Maybe that's why he kind of fell a few extra places to them. But one thing I will also mention, I really like his touch around the rim. He has a nice little kind of half sort of hook shot. He hits quite well. Like I don't know if he's leading the league in field goal percentage. He's got to be up there. He's at 73%. So he's got to be something close to leading the league in that. Obviously, he's taking shots around the rim, but it's not just dunks and like putbacks. Like he's got a nice touch around the rim, and if he can continue to build on that, like this is like you said, this is definitely a long-term runner mate for Luka Doncic.
Yeah, and he's 72nd percentile as a roll man, and scoring 1.28 points per possession. That's just below the likes of Kristaps, Chet, Karl-Anthony Towns. Pretty good names to be next to.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Well done, well done, well done, Dallas. You finally found a nice draft piece after Luka.
About time. Quick name to drop, because I think, unfortunately for Mr. Hawkins, his game might be under wraps, but it's not his fault. I mean, this dude was on pace to have the most threes of any rookie, including Steph Curry. Like dude was shooting 6 threes a game, 6 threes a game as a rookie. You know, Pelicans had all those injuries, and it's just insane how many times that they can just draft a good wing. I mean, he slots in, has great energy, is a little bit small for his position, but he competes. I mean, this dude, the thing that's great to see from rookies that we said for a few other guys is the presence they bring on the floor. Like, are they really there? Are they pushing too much? Are they not knowing where to be? Like, he's always in the right spot, relocates great as a shooter, and I think projects to be like a rotation level starter. I think he is a great shooter and probably will be in the league for a long time because he's a high volume shooter. But man, he's gonna be stuck in that rotation. Trey Murphy's back. You got Dyson Daniels is a very important defender for them, and oh yeah, that guy named Herb Jones, and oh yeah, some other guy named Brandon Ingram. Like, it's insane how many wings I got. I didn't mean to turn this into a trade request time, but guys like Jordan Hawkins, I mean, he's a very cheap buy for someone who needs a young shooting wing, and he's shown it. Like, that's what's awesome about these guys. They have a moment, they have an opportunity, they showcase their ability, and I think any team can look at that tape and be like, hey, that guy's a good player. That guy's a good shooter. I'm for the opportunity he got, I'm gonna give him a B+.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair. I think obviously he was averaging 11 points per game, and he's shooting 36% for three, which is for the volume that he's shooting at as a rookie. Like that's really solid. Like, and he's had 3 games scoring 25 plus. Like he's certainly done enough in the opportunities that he's gotten to really show what he has the potential to do. Like you said, yeah, he's going to get a bit more stuck now. We're not going to see as much of him now that the Pelicans are healthy. But what we did see is more than enough to show that maybe his future doesn't rely on New Orleans, obviously, with all the players that they do have. But he's definitely going to be a guy that other teams will want to look at and other teams will consider investing in because of what he brings and what he could be a part of in the future.
Yeah. A quick hit on him. Good for Jordan Hawkins. Good for New Orleans. Just constantly finding wings. You don't need to hog them all. Other teams need shooting wings. Please share. Let's talk about Keontae George. Somehow the Utah Jazz, deep in the lottery, find their starting point guard of the future. Apparently, Keontae George is not being included in any sort of trade discussions. Meanwhile, they're dangling Lowry out there for 1 million picks. How good has this kid been?
And maybe, I wouldn't say he's been that good that they've been so convinced, but obviously they know more. They
relatively,
know more than
man.
I do.
We're talking about rookies here. Yeah.
They obviously know more than I do. But in terms of what he has offered, it's been a nice spark for Utah. We're kind of seeing him as he's been a rookie. Like let's remember we're talking about rookies here. Like he's a guy that 11 points, 3 boards, 5 assists. Shooting, but the shooting has been poor. 36-32 splits. Like that's a weak side of his game. But again, he's a rookie. He's had 7 games where he's had 7+ assists. I mean, he's shown the flashes. The team clearly believes in him. He was the 16th overall pick. I mean, that's pretty impressive to get a guy that you believe is going to be your future point guard only after a few months at the 16th spot. So far, I'd probably going to give him like maybe I'm being harsh, but I'd say maybe a C+ because the Jazz have struggled. He's had probably as many bad games as he had good, but the flash is there, and it's always tougher to truly judge a rookie that's going to be a point guard, I think, compared to other positions. A point guard, I think, is a really hard position to come in at straight off the bat and really show your best self. But what he has shown, it has been impressive.
Yeah, and I think the shooting percentages are tough because he's doing it on ball. He's doing it as a primary creator, and Utah is basically handing the keys to do that. And that's why that's for me why I increase his grade a bit, because I put it into the context of a rookie who doesn't yet have the NBA body, but has the NBA feel. And the feel he has to get to his shots, and the kind of the little quirks to his game, having that floater game, being able to shoot off the bounce in the pick and roll, being able to shoot in the middle of the floor, and the vision that he has, especially in the pick and roll.
Mhm.
So like I think the little things he has to his game that you don't expect from a rookie kind of like jumps off the page. Like even though the shots don't get down, they look good. They look really good, and they look smooth. They don't look forced, and they're not random. And you can tell that he has that IQ to really pick apart defenses. And obviously the shot just hasn't come yet, and that comes with NBA pressure. Like this is real NBA defense, and he doesn't have an NBA body yet. And I think the thing that people were concerned about the most for him was physicality, and does lack of burst and athleticism kind of hold him back a bit. But I think we've seen enough where that's not going to. And just look at his 30-point game against OKC. Like he really has flashes of being a primary creator, not just for himself but for others. And I don't know, that's in the 16th pick. No one was expecting it. No one had him on like their watch out for this guy kind of list. So I'm gonna give him a B. Maybe I'm a nice grader. You're a tough one, clearly. You like Utah should be making the playoffs if he's a good player or something, according to you. But I've been impressed from what I've seen so far, especially in the flashes. Doing that 19 points against New Orleans as well. It's had a few really great games, and the playmaking. I gotta give it to a rookie point guard at least. Like, look at our guy Scoot.
Mhm.
We're not talking about our guy Scoot. We already have, but we know how hard it can be for a rookie point guard in point blank period. Keontae's been awesome given the pressure he's been put under.
Yeah, I think that, yeah. You're probably right there. I think that's probably fair.
Yeah, that's what I thought. And let's talk about someone who probably won't make any headlines, but I got to give a quick shout out to Tumani Kamara, not the rookie that I thought I'd be talking about with the Blazers at this point of the year, but again, like the theme of the season is rookie defenders, and this dude's an animal. Like if you're watching any Portland Trailblazers games, you're probably watching Scoot, you're probably watching Shaden, and then you're probably watching Simons, and then Grant in that order. But if you peel your eyes away from them and take a look at Tumani Kamara, there's a reason why he's getting on these minutes. I mean, this guy's a great defender, and he's. It's funny that we look at this team, we don't see them having all this good defense because they have him and they have Matisse Thybulle. But I mean, Tumani Kamara is a fantastic defender, and if he can put together an offensive game, like he'll be in the league for a long time. This guy is long. He can defend multiple positions. He can switch, and this is a guy that I think that Portland will stick around with for a while.
Yeah, I mean, he's been a surprise guy. I mean, you not obviously not the big name, not the rookie, obviously, like you said, that we thought we'd talk about with Portland, but he's been a big part of why they've been the fun team that I mentioned them being earlier on in the podcast. And yeah, he's obviously bit of a random one, but he's had a big impact, and it's just kind of the side of it as figuring out, like we've seen with Matisse Thybulle, like what a player he could have been if he was somehow able to figure out how to have an offensive game. It's obviously it's a big hole to try and figure out, but if he can do it, that changes things. And even if not, even if he is just an elite defender, maybe he won't be a prized asset, but he'll still be a guy that's capable of maintaining a good long career in the NBA.
Yeah. Well, fun fact: Matisse Thybulle is still shooting 40% from three.
How many attempts?
I will pull that up right now. Like, this has gone completely unnoticed. The guy who was like the best wing defender in basketball last season is now shooting 40% from three on, wait for it. Like, do they trade him or they keep him?
I keep
If he gotta give me this. On how many attempts per game, bro? 3, 4, 4, 4, 5. Like, he's taking threes. He's doing it on 3.8 attempts per game.
Okay, it's not bad.
Put some respect on Matisse Thybulle's name.
Fair play. That's good. I was thinking you were gonna say like sub 3. If it was anything sub 3, I would like, okay.
I was
that's not
scared.
really
I was
anything.
not sure. I was not
Yeah,
sure.
that's
All
a
I knew is
that's
that
a pretty nice number to be shooting 40%. Yeah, fair play.
Yeah.
Good lad, Matisse. Good to see. Good to see.
I love when those come out. Our last one, Brandon Pajimski. Remember when we talked about Brandon real quick last season? We're like, oh, this guy's like leading the country in scoring. He's like best shooter in the country. I wonder who's gonna get him. It better not be the Warriors. And here we are. What have you thought about him so far?
Great impact player. Obviously, he's doing it in a difficult situation. He's coming into a team that are expecting to be a winning team straight off the bat. He's expected to have a positive impact straight off the bat. There's not really that learning curve for him in that situation, but what he's shown is to be a really great impact player. He's obviously, like I said, playing for a winning team. It's tough to come in and do. What he is doing is he's fitting right in with the Warriors mantra. He is shooting 40% from three. He's coming in averaging 8.5 points per game, 5 boards, 3 assists. I mean, this guy has been a big impact player. He started the last few games. He obviously went out last night against the Celtics. So hopefully that's not too serious of an injury. But he's definitely a guy that I give him a B rating. Obviously not going crazy, but he's been a big impact player in what's been a difficult start to the year for the Warriors.
Yeah, he's very interesting for me because I think when you look at him as a player, I think you kind of come up with a lot of stereotypes, like you've seen your Doug McDermott's, you've seen your Jimmer Fredette's, and here's the next iteration. You got Brandon Pajimski. All right, what is he gonna do in the NBA? He does a lot of things. Who he reminds me of at times? He reminds me of Kevin Huerter. Because Kevin Huerter does a lot of the little things. He does a lot of the cutting. But he will set some screens. He will take some charges. He will dive in for some rebounds. He'll go for some loose. He's always moving. He's a very active player. He's not just like hunting for shots. And Pajinski has shown that. I mean, it's awesome that he's earned. That's why he's earning playing time right now. Is because like he doesn't just bring it when he gets to shoot the three. Like he will attack a closeout, try to get in the paint, and that's surprisingly he's been pretty good at that. So it leads me to question, like, what's the scope of his game? Because he's not just hucking threes when he's just not just a catch and shoot kind of guy. He's not just put him in a corner, space him out. Like he's shown a lot being able to be a dynamic scorer, and I'm curious. I'm curious about his game. There are some people out there are in the Brandon Pajimski camp that are like, yo, sell that, like put him in the starting lineup, like buy Clay, like, and he's earned it to a certain degree given his level of activity, like what he shows. He shows a lot more toughness, and he shows a lot more than just being that typical kind of mold of a really successful shooter in college. So I'm intrigued, and I will add on a B+ because of that intrigue. But
okay. And he reminds you of Kevin Huerter, of course, not just because he also wears a headband and has that sort of hair, right? That's
no, nothing to do.
Okay.
I just explained myself, Rona. Okay, I gave every reason specifically why, but it doesn't help. It doesn't help that they do kind of look very similar. But yes.
That's the main reason. We all know. Okay, just making that clear that we're all clear on why they really look like, reminding you of each other. But does that close us out? We got anyone else to name?
I think we kind of already shouted out Julian Strawther. Julian Strawther's great. We already kind of we did a little Nuggets thing before, but Peyton Watson, awesome. Julian Strawther, awesome. Nuggets always find those guys. That is it for this segment. I would not be surprised moving forward how many other rookies we have to talk about. I think overall theme of the year, like I said, the defense, the impact has been so insanely impressive this season. How many years have we had over the decade where, it's a big wait and see for these guys, but most of these guys we just talked about, Derek Lively, the impact, obviously Chet and Wemby, the impact they have. And I don't know if you can really measure the impact of Bilal at the moment with the Wizards. Maybe in the future, but I think that wraps it up for me.
Yeah, and I think I mean obviously maybe it's too early to say, but early days, it's definitely looking like this is going to prove to be an extremely strong draft class. Even obviously you take Chet out of it because he was drafted previous year, but in terms of the rest of the draft class, I think it's going to prove to be a really strong one. So since we're finished with that, we'll have to go over, and time for me to really ruin your day yet again.
Are you serious? Three
Of course.
pods in a row?
Yeah, man, this is part of it now. This is the thing. Me ruining your life. It's a big part of this
All right.
podcast, and
We
it's
got
how
my
we have to
coffee
finish
still.
off each
Let's go.
episode.
Let's go.
So let's see how like this should be an easy one. Like I'll be honest with you.
You say that
should
every
be...
time, and it's because you have a list in front of you and you prepared it. Of course.
Okay, but I'm gonna ask you to name every player to average 30 points per game since 1990. And I'll just put it out
Are
to
you
you.
serious?
I'll put it to you this
Since
way.
1990?
These are only the big names have done it.
Average over their career or one time?
No. Like one time, maybe more. You only have to name them once. If they did it, I'll tell you how many times they did it. But yeah, they've done it at least one time during their career. And
Okay.
I'm not trying to trick you here. These are all big names that have done it.
Okay.
30 points per game since 1990. Go.
This is good, honestly. This is keeping me honest because I feel like this is my weak spot in my NBA knowledge is a little bit of history. So when you kick it back a couple decades, it's tough. All right. Okay. 30 points per game one time. Let's start with the easy ones. Kevin Durant.
Yes.
Russell Westbrook, James
Yes.
Harden, Steph
Yes.
Curry, LeBron
Yes.
James.
Yes.
And then we're gonna kick it over to, we know that Joel Embiid has done it recently.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to think about, I'm thinking modern. Who's been doing it in this modern era? And Melo probably did it as well.
Melo did not do it.
No way.
No.
Really?
He did not.
Okay. Luka.
Yep.
Luka's done it. Okay. I think that might do it over the last like 5.
Nope. Think about last year. Remember last year? Every player and their mother did it.
This is true. So last year, I don't think Jokic did that. He did not. Who did it last season? That might be I might have to come back to that. All right, so going backwards, obviously since 1990, we're talking about Michael Jordan.
Mm-hmm.
Did Karl Malone?
He did.
Karl Malone.
That was the last of the 90s guys. The rest were, the other ones were early 2000s and then the 2010s and 2020s.
Kobe did it.
He did.
Shaq
3 times.
Shaq definitely did it.
Shaq did not do it.
No way.
No.
Shaq did not do it?
I think he did 29.7. He's always 30. I think he did 30 a few times in the playoffs, but never regular season.
Okay. Vince Carter?
No. But
Tracy
McGrady.
McGrady.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm surprised. I would have thought Vince would have had one season. Allen Iverson?
Yep, 4 times.
Yep.
One more, but that was from the 2000s.
Only one more from the 2000s?
Yeah, late 2000s.
Paul Pierce?
No.
Is it kind of a random?
No. In a sense, sort of, but
Grant Hill? Grant
No.
Hill?
We mentioned him and he was a name that came up in the last quiz.
I don't think that Dwayne had a 30-point. He did?
He did in 2009. He did, yeah.
Dwayne did, but Shaq
Just before LeBron came to town.
That's
All right,
crazy.
the rest of them are more modern day. We got 4 from last season, and one you may have forgotten about.
Just from last season.
Still playing.
Just from last season. Did Tatum score 30 points per game?
He did.
He did. Yeah. Okay. I wasn't sure if he was running the cusp at like 29. Are you rounding up here? Like 29.6?
No. These are all over 30. 30 or more. Yeah.
All right. So do we have the 20 teens now? The 2000 teens?
Yeah. We got it's around the 2020, around like 2018 to 2020. This guy, one of the guys did it a couple of times.
Okay. We already said about so KD. Thinking big 30-point per game scores. Who's going off?
This is a guy you would
Devin,
forget about.
I would forget about.
You would forget about, but he still is a superstar in this league.
Oh, Trae Young.
No, bit older. Just got traded this past off season.
Did I say Harden? I said Harden.
You said Harden.
I did say Harden. He got traded this past off season. I hate these, man. Who? East or West?
He went from the East to the West.
East or West? This should be obvious. I know this. I definitely know this.
Yep.
This is in my brain. I just need to find it. And it's still not James Harden, East to West. Oh, yeah. Brad Beal.
Bingo.
Yes,
Did that
easy
twice.
to forget about because he never plays.
Yep. All right, you got 3 more. I don't think you may have mentioned a couple of these guys, but I didn't.
What years?
2 of them did it last year. Actually, they all did it last year, but one of them did it before that as well.
Oh my God! All right, who am I? Oh my God, Giannis.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can't believe I forgot that. And Dame.
Yes.
Yes.
There you go. The final one to mention. A favorite of this podcast. A favorite team of this podcast.
Ja?
Not Ja.
I was like, oh, that's my favorite.
Yeah, that's out there. He's not quite on Ja's level of favoritism, but we're coming around to this team a lot.
Yeah, like one single brain cell that I had thought Julius Randle for a second. Your favorite.
We hate Julius Randle on this podcast.
you do. Man, last year, that does remind me just how much scoring there was. If we're thinking about our favorites, it wasn't on the Pelicans, it wasn't on the Grizzlies. We have a lot of favorites.
We do. We can show a lot of love on this podcast.
The Bulls are not my favorite. They're my least favorite.
Western Conference. Got this. It's there.
De'Aaron Fox?
Not De'Aaron Fox.
Oh my God.
Come on. You're gonna get it.
I already said Steph.
You did?
I said Devin Booker, didn't I?
He wasn't an answer. He has not done it.
Oh my God. We always end on the obvious one.
Come on, you got this.
Guard or wing?
Yes, guard.
How am I forgetting a guard that scored 30 points per game last season on a team that we talk about?
Mid-range maestro.
Kevin Durant.
Brandon
Ingram?
No. Come on, man.
DeMar DeRozan?
No. Oh man, you're really disappointing me. He is from Canada.
Oh my God. Yeah, I should have had that one. Yeah, yep.
You want to just say it there?
No,
make sure
I'm
you
sure
know
everyone already knows it. It's Shea.
It is Shea. It is Shea. The one I would have thought you got that a bit quicker, but hey,
see that's a good bias kind of exercise. It's a good bias exercise. Is Shea now in your like mind as obviously he's like a superstar scorer? That's what he should be. He is like on the top of my mind, but if you dig back the bias, like he hasn't established it probably in my deep psyche. Like he will. He is. Shea is that. Shea will be in that level once I think about it. Okay. All right.
There you go. That was nice.
Sorry,
see, like you got there. Like you actually like usual. You forgot the ones that I thought you would get, but yeah, I mean you did good there. See, I told you it wasn't a trick. I told you that'd be a pretty easy.
That one wasn't as painful. That one wasn't as painful.
No, you got there. That's
okay.
Good.
But when you start off with saying fill in the blank since 1990, like my heart, my blood pressure just went through the roof.
I know you I know you want to learn about your history. You know me. I'm a history buff. I'm the loser who's sitting at home on his computer looking up NBA stats of all time.
We appreciate that, Ronan. We're all smarter for it. Thank you.
Absolutely. But that's going to do it for today's podcast. Again, happy holidays to everyone. Chris, happy holidays to you. Thank you for hopping on with me. Appreciate it as always. Enjoy the basketball over the Christmas period. Let's see how Ja Morant keeps on trucking. Let's see what guys end up in the All-Star game. Let's see what happens with Draymond Green. It's all ahead of us. There's still going to be plenty more to cover, and we'll have it all for you here on Coast to Coast. But remember to take every shot and love every moment. And more importantly, have a great Christmas, everybody.
Take care.